Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering the book of Nahum.
Nahum, chapters
Just
1 through 3.
The book, the whole book. We're covering the whole book.
It is the whole book.
There's no need to say chapters 1 through 3 because we're covering the entirety.
This happened last time we did a whole book.
I know. Okay. But there are 3 chapters.
You guys.
The chapters
are the whole book, yeah.
Not in the original text.
Okay. It's fucking, I guess this whole show has just been...
Yep.
We've been pointlessly...
My job is pointless. It's to push buttons and to add pointless numbers.
Exactly.
We knew that.
So having the chapters are
so
useful.
Let's proceed to read this in Hebrew.
You know, you might think that's offensive.
It's not.
But, I mean, we're both Jewish. And you also know Hebrew to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Yiddish.
I mean, I guess the only Yiddish I picked up was whenever...
Shugana.
Yeah.
You know, Shena Punam.
Okay, what do I know? I know, obviously everyone knows Tuchus, right?
Yeah.
And then there is, oh my God, what's the... Mishigas.
Oh, I don't know that.
Mishigas?
Yeah, it's like craziness surrounding.
Right, so when
situation.
you say Meshugana, it comes from the same word.
Oh, okay.
Right, if I say, Oy vey, you're Meshugana.
You're crazy? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the Shena Punam thing, it's something they do with little girls. They'll like pinch their cheek and be like, Shena Punam, right? Like
yeah, I guess I never experienced that.
Not a little
It
girl.
means pretty face.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, you didn't have that.
Next time
I didn't.
you see a hot Yiddish girl, you say, hey there, Shena Punam.
I'm not going to do that.
Let me get some of that tuchus.
Wow.
No, I don't think I'll be doing that. Maybe as a joke after we've been friends for a long time.
I guess they're ex-Jews, yeah. I've never been Jewish, but they're yeah.
No, Chris was...
Born a nihilist, dies a nihilist.
Yep, he has knowledge of what his mental state was the minute he was born.
No, the minute I started thinking, so I
when he
immediately
was
knew it was
16.
pointless.
The minute he started thinking, when he was 16 years
Finally, the brain kicked in.
Yeah.
They didn't know me before then, so there is no evidence
he had
for
a
my
transplant.
existence.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about Nahum.
Yeah, what's Nahum about? I have the KJV.
Oh, I have the English Standard Version of the Bible. It's over here.
We also have Robert Alter's translation and commentary, the Hebrew Bible.
We have Erdman's commentary on the Bible. We have the Old Testament survey.
We also have the Jewish Publication Society of America's Holy Scriptures, and we have the New King James.
And we also have this.
Ooh, spooky.
It looks amazing. Look at it.
Halloween.
Yeah, is that next week? I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Halloween's next week. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so the big bad in the book of Nahum is Nineveh.
Nineveh.
Yeah, capital of the Assyrian Empire.
They suck.
Obviously, they suck.
They're not around today.
Listen, if they were really good, they would be around today.
Exactly.
And they're not. Therefore, they were not good. So, in my readings for this, I mean, there was this, general. They covered some of the Assyrian kings, kind of just putting it in context. I think the most important part, though, that we should talk about here. So I'm just gonna skip to closer to the end of this timeline, closer to when the book was written. So Ashurbanipal managed temporarily to undo some of the worst results of his predecessor's policies, successfully quelling Babylonian rebellion and waging war against Elam. But with the mixed result of freeing the hand of the Medes to become a greater threat to Assyria. That was the mixed result there. Ashurbanipal also inherited Esarhaddon's Egyptian entanglement, as a result of which the sack of Noamon, the Egyptian capital, city of Thebes, by the Assyrians, referred to in Nahum 3:8-10, took place in 663. Babylonia was to be Assyria's nemesis, destined to bring about the destruction of Nineveh. The Babylonians had long harbored rebellion against domination by their northern neighbors. Nabopolassar, who became king in Babylon in 626, formed an alliance with the Medes and brought the rule of Assyria to an end in a war highlighted by the fall of the cities of Ashur in 614 and of Nineveh in 612. So that kind of brings me to the dating of the book. For the themes, there's really only one thing that I noticed that was actually kind of interesting.
Nineveh.
Well, yeah, obviously Nineveh, but theologically speaking, one of them was like, how do you deal with good people in a bad land? Like, remember, back
Sodom.
Remember Sodom? Yeah. He was asking like, hey, what if there are good people there? Shouldn't we save the good people? Well, this is not like that.
No, they're not Yahwists, so there are no good people there, right?
I suppose, but I suppose that's how that works, right? So the book cannot have been written before the fall of Thebes in 663, to which it alludes in 3:8. Moreover, the book seems to anticipate the fall of Nineveh rather than report it, so that it must have been written before 612. Most scholars narrow this 50-year window by assuming that the expectation of the fall of Nineveh probably developed after Nabopolassar and the Medes had actually begun to demolish Assyrian military power, so that shortly before 612 is the most likely judgment. A Judean provenance is likely, and given the genre of the work, we may assume that it was produced by a prophet-poet, but as the section on the superscription will suggest, nothing can be said for certain about the author, which, especially for these shorter books, it's hard to say because they just lack a lot of information.
Yeah, well, they're short. It's like there's all this ancient Greek and ancient Roman, like short poetry.
Yeah.
Right?
Also the long ones. Which
well, talking specifically about the short ones, or like even the Psalms, an individual psalm. It's so short, you would be hard pressed to find any dating for any of it outside of manuscript evidence.
Yeah.
Right. You might be able to make a linguistic argument, but like even today, people use archaisms, so it's not clear that linguistic arguments are the most valid way to date a text.
Yeah. There are lots of different ways of dating a text.
And then sometimes you read a really good linguistic argument and you're like, yeah, I'm going to use that now. And people have done that throughout history.
Yeah.
I think
they reuse things.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they do. They do reuse things. Like if I was like, sometimes you can tell by the words that are used, right? Not just
ye can.
What?
I shall yeeteth you across the threshing floor.
Huh?
I bite my thumb at thee.
Yeah, obviously, that comes from a certain time period.
Yes, they say
but like
that,
if I say
it's older than that.
well, yeah, obviously, otherwise,
No, but it's older than that. No, but it's older than that.
Anyways,
just keeps going.
So like if like the sentence I just said, it sounds like it's old. It's been archaized, right? Mm-hmm. But I also said the word yeet in there, and that exists now. It didn't exist then.
It's
Yeet
true,
was
but
originally derived in cave people era, but nobody remembered that because everyone was too dumb to write down.
So then it wasn't
no,
derived.
you see the word yeet.
In brain whole time, didn't know.
Wow.
It doesn't exist elsewhere in biblical literature, like a lot of the words that pop up in biblical literature.
It doesn't exist. What?
Yeah, there's a ton of words that occur in the Bible and Supergrapha and Apocrypha, which don't exist in other manuscripts.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And that
So,
helps more than anything else, is
you
when you
could-
have unique identifiers.
You could say, well, this yeet thing, that's just an archaic word, which happens to have been brought back with a totally different meaning later down the line.
You know, it's pretty amazing that we live in this current age
Yeah.
where those things are easier to track.
Oh no, see, you have to handwrite it in like perfect calligraphy and then like tea stain the pages.
They'd still be able to date it.
Oh,
The actual pages, they'd still be able to date it.
okay, you need to figure out how time travel technology works, write something, send it back in time, buried underground somewhere, then dig it up.
Well, see, at that point, you've accomplished something else entirely.
You know, time travel would mess up all of history.
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
We shouldn't.
We should do it.
No, oh God, we should not mess with the past. Bad idea.
Gotta
I
get
can
back to the
understand
past.
that objects can kind of freely move through time in a limited sense in the now, but after things are kind of affirmed, it's a little annoying to think that they're in flux still.
We're actively moving through time.
We are,
We're
yeah.
moving
Right.
forward in time at the rate of 1 second per second.
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
Guys,
it's
you
amazing.
don't even know what rate you're moving at. That's what's funny.
I'm-
No, that's exactly it. 1 second per second. Yeah.
Yeah, I dare you to stare at a ticking clock
It's still 1 second per second.
and see how long it feels to you.
It doesn't
feels-
matter how long it feels to you. You're
feels
still
longer 'cause
moving
it's-
forward in time at the rate of 1 second per second.
It feels longer because it's boring as shit to stare at a clock.
Yeah, that might be it for you, I'm sure.
Okay.
Anyways, Book of Nahum.
Yeah, I'm going to finish off the introduction pretty short here. This is from Erdman's commentary. So there are at least two ways of reading Nahum. The first is to follow the lead given by the two opening Hebrew words in 1:1, in oracle concerning Nineveh, and to see the whole book in this light. It then falls into three main parts, and then it breaks up the parts about Judah, Nineveh, Assyria, and then the second approach takes seriously the fact that in the Hebrew numbering of the book, chapter 2 begins at 115, begins at 115 in the English, that is with the address to Judah. This then implies that the Shatterer has come up against Judah, not Nineveh. Although it has to be allowed that the references to squares and river gates in 2, 4, and 6 make good sense when applied to Nineveh and little sense when applied to Jerusalem. However, the references to Judah at 1:12 through 13 and 1:15, if they are not simply later additions, suggest that complex literary processes underlie the book's production. And it has been plausibly argued that material that originally concerned Jerusalem has been reused and applied to Nineveh, especially in parts of chapters 1 and 2. This matter affects estimates of the date of Nahum. If the entire book, apart from what must be regarded as later additions referring to Judah, originally concerned Nineveh, then there are two main possibilities. Either the composition is a prophecy of Nineveh's downfall, made by an otherwise unknown prophet sometime between the destruction of Thebes by the Assyrians in 663 and the fall of Nineveh in 612, or it is a celebration of the city's destruction after 612. The latter view could also allow that some parts were genuine prophecies before the event. If the more complicated literary approach is taken, the poem of 1:2 through 15 may originally have been one of encouragement to Judah to expect deliverance from its Babylonian oppressor in the century after Nineveh's destruction, while chapters 2 through 3 either predated or postdated Nineveh's fall to the Babylonians in 612. Whatever line is followed, the book contains magnificent imagery as it contrasts the awesome majesty of God, and then it goes on to it goes on like that for a little bit.
So basically, this book is hate speech against Nineveh.
Aren't they all? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, like, if you replace the word Nineveh with, like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, essentially.
Ethiopia, then
It
it would be hate speech today.
Yeah, they definitely don't like it. Definitely do not like
And
Nineveh.
Crazy how this is venerated and it's just hate speech.
Yeah.
You know, what was interesting, I was looking through this book here on prophets or prophecy and the prophets in ancient Israel. I was looking through it. And so for a lot of these books that have, you know, a lot of different papers just stuck together, they don't usually have like an index of subjects. They have an index of citations. So like for, you know, biblical stuff, they give you an index of all the verses that are referenced.
Yeah.
So there's no subjects. You know, it's not listed by subject. There is not a single reference to Nahum in here.
Oh. What a useful book that is so helpful to our reading of Nahum.
Well, you see,
It's not. I was really bummed. I was like, why? Every other prophet is referenced in that book.
even the tiny ones.
Yes, but this is not.
Even that 27 verser that we read before. What was that?
30 forgot which one.
Obadiah.
Obadiah.
Yeah.
Even
That's referenced
Obadiah's
in there multiple times. Not a lot, granted, but multiple times.
That is interesting bias.
But Nahum gets nothing in that book, and I'm like, why? Why not Nahum?
So we've officially entered into the part of the Bible that nobody cares about.
Whoa. Isn't that why we have all 3 viewers? Hi, guys.
Hello.
Well, the count lies.
I was the first one to say that today.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyways,
Milwaukee, after all.
why don't I start the book of Nahum?
Whole fucking
Great.
city right here.
Okay. Chapter 1. The burden of Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this. Like, I know it's just the superscription, right? But let's talk about it a little. So depending on whether the straightforward or complex view of the book composition is taken, we either have one introduction, the text as we have it, or that the verse originally read the book of the vision of Nahum. The second possibility does not rule out the likelihood that Nahum's vision was concerned with the forthcoming destruction of Nineveh. Of the prophet himself, we know nothing, nor has Elkosh been identified. If Nahum indeed foresaw Nineveh's downfall between 663 and 612, there are 2 reigns of kings of Judah during which he could have spoken out. That of the pro-Assyrian Manasseh. That guy was bad. Remember Manasseh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bad.
He had a prayer.
Prayer of Manasseh. Remember reading that?
Yeah.
It was
He did.
very disingenuous.
And that of the anti-Assyrian Josiah. That guy was good. Very good.
So
good boy,
great.
Josiah. If the argument is cogent that the reference to the destruction of Thebes in 663 would be meaningful only if it was of recent occurrence, this suggests Manasseh's reign as the more likely setting. In that case, Nahum was a prophet who must have put himself in considerable danger by denouncing Assyria at a time when it was still very powerful and when Judah was a vassal state pledged to allegiance to Assyria. And that lasted for a while, right? Like, I don't know how, once we get into the reading, we'll probably have a better idea of it.
So
But depending on how important the fall of the destruction of Thebes sounds, that it might impact that.
So let's talk about Elkosh, right?
Yeah.
We can't identify it,
Nope.
right? I haven't seen other references to it.
Nope.
So I'm going to guess Elkosh is like a small town or farming,
You know
like,
what? This
rural
almost
area.
feels like an anagram, but it also could just be a rural town.
Probably in like Judah or something. I don't know.
Could be in Judah. I mean, they're talking about the Assyrians, right? So he might be in Israel.
Well,
proper,
yeah.
Right. So I'm going to guess either like a small rural community or like a suburb somewhere. Like as
It's totally
close to a
possible, yeah.
suburb as you can get.
Yeah, totally
Right.
possible.
So let's continue. God is jealous, and the Lord revengeth.
A jealous and vengeful God is the Lord.
The Lord revengeth.
Yep, revengeth.
No, it repeats.
Oh, great.
It says, God is jealous, and the Lord revengeth. The Lord revengeth, and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies.
Wow, revengeth.
Yeah,
a good one.
adversaries here is probably Hashaitan. Right?
I don't know. It doesn't say anything.
Why don't you check the Septuagint?
I could. Yeah, I could check the Septuagint. Actually,
Yeah,
I was looking for Elkosh because maybe out of all things, it's
No.
no. I didn't think it would be either, and I kind of doubt that it is.
No, the Oxford Companion of the Bible is useless. Don't buy it.
It is pretty useless, unless for some
In
reason.
fact, if you have a Bible,
Just read that.
the Oxford Companion to the Bible is a completely useless book. As far as I can tell.
It's had like maybe one piece of important information.
Yeah.
We knew what it had to offer, and you would too. How's that?
So Nahum 1:2.
Okay, and I have to find it, but I can check while you keep reading.
Yes. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebuketh the sea and maketh it dry, and drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel, and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. What's the flower of Lebanon, Lawrence?
All right, well, let's see here. So bleak are Bashan and Carmel, and Lebanon's blossom is bleak.
Oh, so it's a famine.
Sounds like it, yeah.
The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt. Another reference to the hills melting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And the and the earth is burned at his presence. Yea, the world and all that dwell therein.
So apparently here,
Sounds like a psychedelic trip again.
so yeah, the translation used by Alter is the earth lies in ruins. The Masoretic text reads, the earth bears Watisa, but two ancient versions reflect more plausibly Watisha, which in the Hebrew involves merely moving the dot over the letter shin from left side to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, there's shin and there's sin.
Oh, okay.
One's a sh and one's a s.
Right.
But they're basically the same.
You just move over like an accent mark, I guess.
Did you find Nahum in the
I'm
Septuagint?
Yeah, I found it. I'm currently looking for that was what in verse 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
1:2. Vengeance on his adversaries.
No, it's not Satan. Anything
Interesting.
like that.
Interesting.
No, it's let's see, tus hupenantius autu kai exairon autos tus ecthrus autu. Yeah, no, not Satan.
Who can stand before his indignation? And who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. Well, you know, that volcano god stuff.
Yeah, that volcano god stuff. No.
Yeah. You know, we're just mounting more and more evidence for this volcano god thing.
Like
You know how many
Rocks
times
being thrown down, fury poured like fire,
mountain,
he also caused a flood.
hey,
earth melting.
mountains melting.
Yeah.
He also caused a flood.
Literally melting mountains. I don't know what a volcano is, but a
But a
Different
melting
book
mountain.
by a different author worshiping a different god.
Maybe it's a bath salt volcano.
I see what you're going for. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're saying this
is my multiple gods of the Bible theory.
Okay.
Yeah. Where the Yahweh that is described in different books has completely different traits. Like
I was saying bath salt. Yeah, there are different kinds of volcanoes that aren't actually like a mountain that's melting.
yeah.
There are at least 5 other kinds, I think. So my bad. Didn't mean to exclude them.
Yeah. Discriminating against mountains. Look at this guy.
In fact,
Volcanoes.
I
It's a
would go
volcanism
so far
God,
as to say that the God in various books is so different between books that it would be an error to say the God of the Bible, right?
I definitely agree that God is portrayed so many different ways in
He
the
has
Bible, so many
different
feelings.
abilities, different personality
Dude.
traits.
I don't know about
Oh.
different abilities
Oh.
necessarily.
You guys have got to see the listing for Yahweh in 3.5's deities and
Oh my God.
demigods.
Yeah, I'm
No.
sure.
It's funny. They don't give him stats. It's
Okay.
the only one they don't give stats to. They just say, do whatever you feel like, man. It literally says that.
Yeah,
It's,
Okay. Why are we talking about D&D?
I
there's
just
no
think
reason to.
I just think it's funny. He gets so many God's attributes that it just doesn't matter what he has because he's the fill in the blank God, right?
The point being
That's
that
what I'm saying.
there are definitely different abilities that are like
Right.
mutually exclusive in different books of the Bible, right? So you have like the deterministic God,
Yeah, that is
which
true.
appears in certain parts, but then the completely non-deterministic God who appears in different parts, right? That would imply different ability, different ways of forming reality, like different, like it's a completely different character. They aren't similar.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, these books, they don't sound like they're coming from a god. They sound like they're coming from people who, in whatever historical situation they're in, they need to like emphasize different parts of their god, to I don't know, get some point across.
Right,
Depending.
but at the points that are mutually exclusive, like the determinism versus non-determinism variants of Yahweh.
I personally think it's whatever fits the role for whoever gets converted the most at the time. And so if people
they don't convert.
in another well, Christianity was more like this, I guess.
Yeah,
They
we
made
haven't covered anything from Christianity yet.
That's true, but I'm pretty sure that they still, even especially in the Apocrypha texts, they talk about things that God can do in a way that is better than the other gods. They just
Absolutely.
They just do.
They do that here too.
They do that here too, but
Right.
less.
Right.
Definitely less.
But
than
like the
Apocrypha.
character of Jesus is way more consistent than Yahweh and what he does and his personality traits.
He's also way more recently written.
Yeah.
That too. And I think maybe it's hard to nail down consistency. That's why tracking the change in theology over time is, I think, a good way to look at it, because you have going from these really early on, these polytheistic beliefs, and then henotheistic, and then monotheism. It tracks really well, and then you can also check through like different parts of their theology too, like their eschatology and stuff.
It does
like that.
track really well, but it doesn't track perfectly.
No, in fact, that'd be an interesting thing to do an analysis of, is to see if the message and the kind of God that they pervade in the message matches for everything. Or at least if we could categorize it in some way,
Well, I mean, I think this has definitely been done by a lot of
I'm not
scholars.
saying we have to do it. It might just already exist.
Yeah, well, the point being that it's not like it goes from being polytheistic to henotheistic to monotheistic.
Yeah, we kind of
Like,
have to.
It bounces back and forth. Like that one psalm where there's a council of the gods.
well, no,
right.
because the thing is the
That's
model.
a henotheistic psalm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it definitely takes place after books that are way more monotheistic.
Right. So I guess what I'm more saying is disregarding the order of the books. Like
Well-
if you just read it straight through,
Mhm.
then yeah, it bounces back and forth. And
Well, you have to
order
also
they're in is not
consider
chronological either.
you have to consider the chronological order of writing of the books.
Mhm.
of the writing.
And
yes.
I would hazard to guess that it is not consistently from polytheistic to henotheistic to monotheistic throughout.
There's a lot of gray zone.
I think I would say probably a general trend is what I would say.
Yeah, it's like
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
and that is what I mean. That chart doesn't exist. It'd be cool to,
It might exist.
if it's possible to even generate said chart. You know,
Yeah. What values would you use for that?
that's what I
chart?
mean by it would be difficult because you'd have to create some sort of.
Like, how eschatological is this book?
Why
Scale of 1
I'm
to
going
10.
to say that a 1 is they believe in Yahweh, a half of 1 is that they're not quite there, and before that they believe in a lot of gods. You
Wow.
know, a 0 is that. How's that?
So-
Oh wow, what a great scale. Terrible scale, but you know,
Yeah, pretty bad scale.
whatever. It's 0 to 1. Have fun with that.
Yeah, but this god is a volcano god. Come
Oh,
on, man.
okay,
Look at it.
I-
All right.
The imagery, yes, does resemble a volcano.
Okay, let me point this out. Mountains quake, hills melt, earth is burned, and all that dwell therein. Fierce anger, fury poured out like fire, rocks thrown down. These are all the details that we get. This is incredibly consistent with a volcanic eruption. Now, I get that there's not a bunch of active volcanoes around the region, but at the same time, there are active volcanoes pretty nearby, right? It's not like it would be completely unheard of, especially after like the Hasmonean, right? Like the Maccabees stuff.
This is way before that, though.
Right. But like it's reasonable to assume that people who are regularly engaging with trade with other nations around the whole region, around the whole Mediterranean, they had port cities. They would hear about volcanoes.
Of course, they would hear about volcanoes.
Yeah.
They'd hear them when they blow up.
The thing is, like, yes, this specific text is showing a lot of imagery of a volcano. It absolutely does. But because of the amount of imagery that has been used for Yahweh in all biblical texts, you could get volcano god out of it. You could get god of agriculture. You could get god of the sea.
Right, which is why I hold my multiple gods of the Bible theory, right? The Yahweh, not like the Platonic form Yahweh, but the Yahweh used here is volcano god Yahweh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't buy into that, but okay.
Well, in order to buy into it, all you have to do is go with the assumption that different people, different authors, had different conceptions of God. That's the only requirement.
He can be the God of everything, but he's still being represented differently. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, he's being represented in a whole bunch of ways.
A whole bunch of different ways. And we agree that they're giving it the same name. That's not the question.
Yeah, I think mostly it's that, like, if they had a certain belief about something, then they would, like in this case, like you're emphasizing the anger of God, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, even in other biblical texts, when people are described as being angry, like I think there have been a few times where like their face has been described as red, and the fire was kindled inside of them, right? Like it's been used before, so they could probably have that kind of burning, fiery
inside of them. And now I'm thinking, oh, I get it. Their face was red. Boy, how did I not realize that before?
Like the thing is, you would have that kind of fiery imagery. You'd put that onto God too, and in this case, it's obviously much more. It's much larger. It's very exaggerated.
Yeah.
In comparison to a human, but I think like if they had like a feeling to convey, they would convey it through God doing something. And in this case, they chose everything being destroyed by this angry force, which would make sense for a volcano.
Yeah.
The imagery does line up with that.
Yeah,
But
multiple times in multiple books.
Yeah, and like I said, it would be
But like I
interesting
said, it
to
also
chart.
lines up with imagery has lined up with a whole slew of other possible identifications.
Yeah, but you could still hold that there are different gods or different conceptions of God that they're working with, which are mutually exclusive to each other. For example, the God of love, right? That's not the Yahweh that we read about in Obadiah.
That's true.
You can say they're the same God,
We
but
get
they have
some-
totally different qualities.
We get God a version of a conceptualization of Yahweh as a cyclical God, one who brings in enemies and then wipes them out.
Yeah.
You get versions of him where he's a peace-loving God, where he always drives people away, and you just have to sing about it real hard with trumpets or something, and they'll leave you alone. And then you get this weird guy who loves animals being sacrificed all the time. Wait, that's at least 3, and I didn't get to the volcano yet. So there's a lot of conceptualization.
I'm
you
definitely not
also
thinking
have
these as a
Yahweh
different God.
who makes promises that are supposed to last
Multiple
forever into eternity.
That one was just wrong.
And the Yahweh who goes back on his word, and the Yahweh who kind of goes back on his word but comes back into it eventually. Like these are
The
different
abusive
characters.
husband
I-
to Israel.
To me, I mean, if you take into account the time period that each of these things was written in, I would say that it shows an evolving God concept.
Sure, but they're clearly different characters.
I mean, if you look at two
if-
completely disconnected ones, yes.
Okay, well, these books wouldn't have been bound in the same thing. It's not like you would like be in ancient Israel and you would pick up a scroll of like kings and you would have like Nahum thrown on at the end of Kings, right? Like these are separate books.
Yeah.
They just happen to be bound together in what we call the Bible because they were canonized by a group of people who decided that to take it upon themselves to determine a canon, right? So,
Well, I mean, canon studies is kind of more complicated than that. But
sure, it's more complicated than that. But when it comes down to it, some group of people ultimately determines the canon.
yeah,
And-
or what we today call canon. Yeah,
right. Or groups of people over time, right?
It's because it started off as mostly just, these are the ones that we accept as, as scripture. These are the ones that we think are divinely inspired and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then a lot of people, eventually those books were, put together. It kind of started off organically. I think it was organic until it kind of became this, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. But it kind of became like this, it kind of became a monolith over time.
And
Became monolithic.
A lot of it could just be these are the books that are available to us in this
That
geographic location,
That too.
right?
It also could just be that, more people venerated this one and disseminated it to us. That's how it survived.
Well, I mean, it was kind of a popularity contest when it came to canonical books initially.
It has to be to some degree.
Yeah.
Not entirely.
Absolutely.
Right. So, Volcano Yahweh. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. But with an overrunning flood, he will make an utter end of all of the place thereof, and the darkness shall pursue his enemies. What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up for a second time. For while they be folden together as thorns, and while they are drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble, fully dry. There is one come out of thee that imagineth evil against the Lord, a wicked counselor. Thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet, and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down. When he shall pass through, though I have afflicted thee, I will afflict thee no more.
So the translation here is very different. So, thus said the Lord, though they be joined in a pact And you had a different word there, right?
Though they be quiet, and likewise many.
Yeah.
Weird.
So it's different there. So
Sure.
the Hebrew shlemim usually means complete, but the related shlomim can mean party to a pact or alliance. Either shlemim may mean that as well, or it could be revocalized as shlomim. So
Hey.
I guess the translation there.
Ruben, read this. Read the comment.
What?
By whom?
Most recent.
Okay. So I'm not entirely sure on why there's the different translation there, but I don't know if it's a manuscript issue or if it's something else. But yeah, it's translated differently there. So joined in a pact or quiet. Yeah.
That's
For-
super different. Anyways.
For now will I break his yoke from off thee, and will burst thy bonds in sunder. And the Lord hath given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name be sown. Out of the house of thy gods will I cut off the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave, for thou art vile. Behold,
Behold!
Behold.
upon the mountains.
Oh, by the way, here's where it's chapter 2 in the Hebrew.
Oh. Upon the mountains, the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feasts, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off.
Yeah, so that verse there is verse. It's chapter 2, verse 1 in the Hebrew. So I'm gonna hand this off to you.
Hey, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, etc. Go door to door, knocking, and like canvas, like we're a political campaign, in order to get people to watch us.
Yes, this is what you should do. That's the word of the Lord, Lord Reuben. All hail, Lord Reuben.
Yes.
Oh.
Hail!
So so you ended with utterly cut off. Okay. So then with verse 2 in the Hebrew.
Yeah,
Would be your
it
verse
says fulfill your pledges, and these pledges or vows or pledges to offer particular sacrifices in the temple. So they're paired up with the feasts or the pilgrim feasts.
Fantastic. All right. So now we're on to the here's more on the destruction of Nineveh, I guess, because it wasn't exactly named before. So
Right.
I guess we're getting into it. I wonder if it's going to be named here. It should be. If not. So the scatterer has come up against you. Man the ramparts, watch the road, dress for battle, collect all your strength.
So
A nice battle cry.
the scatterer there is the battering ram and altar. He
Oh.
says that after the preceding verse, there is some ambiguity as to whether you is Judah or Assyria. But the sequence of lines that follows makes it clear that it is Assyria or Nineveh that is about to be destroyed.
All right, let's continue on then. For the Lord is restoring the majesty of Jacob as the majesty of Israel. For plunderers have plundered them and ruined their branches. The shield of his mighty men is red. His soldiers are clothed in scarlet. The chariots come with flashing metal on the day he musters them.
So, his warriors' shields are reddened. The soldiers are stained crimson.
Oh, so
Several modern translations have understood this as the color of the shields in the warriors' garments. But the first of these two Hebrew words means reddened, not red.
Oh.
And in light of the havoc of battle evoked in the next few lines, it makes far better sense to see this as a depiction of fighters and their shields splattered with gore.
Wow, okay. So yeah, this is blood. We got a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Gotta love blood.
Oh, yeah.
That.
A lot of vampires here.
The chariots come with flashing metal on the day he musters them. The cypress spears are brandished. The chariots race madly through the streets. They rush to and fro through the squares. They gleam like torches. They dart like lightning. So obviously they're very fast on their horses, and they're just going back and forth, just destroying everything in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
Like they trample over them with their horses.
So this is a description before or after the event of Nineveh's destruction in 612.
Sounds like it's during.
Yeah.
He remembers his officers. They stumble as they go. They hasten to the wall. The siege tower is set up.
So the mantlet siege tower,
mantlet is another
sokek, is a movable shelter designed to protect the besiegers as they approach walls.
Oh, well. Now we know.
It's a mobile home.
The river gates are opened. The palace melts away. Its mistress is stripped. She is carried off. So there are some textual notes here on the mistress being stripped.
Mm-hmm.
So the meaning of the Hebrew word rendered, its mistress is uncertain. And then is stripped is could also be exiled.
Mm.
That's
Eerdmans comments that it's not clear whether opening of the river gates, Nineveh had considerable protection from canals and moats, is the result of a successful assault, an act of treachery from within the city, or a sign of the city's capitulation.
Looks like the city's being taken over, though, from an outside force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mistress is brought out exiled. The Masoretic text is not coherent here. This is from Alter. It begins with a masculine verb, wahutsav, and it was stationed, set up, followed by two feminine verbs. The translation is based on a frequently proposed emendation, but without great confidence, and there are no ancient versions that reflect it.
Well, then. Yeah, this is that's an interesting one. Her slave girls lamenting, moaning like doves and beating their breasts. I know what that's like. I always moan like a dove and beat my breasts.
That is not translated well enough for me to understand how that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
I guess that's just supposed to say they're really, really lamenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nineveh is like a pool whose waters run away. Halt, halt, they cry, but none turns back. Plunder the silver, plunder the gold. There is no end of the treasure or of the wealth of all precious things.
Okay.
They got a lot of stuff that they got to steal.
Ugh.
Desolate. Desolation and ruin. Hearts melt and knees tremble.
So this is translated by Alter as stripped and distraught and despoiled, fainting heart and buckling knees. Right? He says that the Hebrew sound play is more intense. Buka, umevuka, umevulaka. The basic meaning of the recurring root is to be hollowed out, emptied. But the replicated sounds go beyond the lexical meaning.
Okay. Anguish is in all loins. All faces grow pale. Where is the lion's den, the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion and lioness went, where his cubs were, with none to disturb?
Yeah, so
Sounds like a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
References to lions may be symbolic, with the Assyrian kings being likened to lions whose destructive days are over, but we know that lions were hunted and kept in Nineveh in the 7th century. Also, the lion's den in Daniel 6, and there could be possibly an allusion to the fear that the Ninevites would have if the lions were set loose.
Yeah, And it goes on here with the lion imagery. So the lion tore enough for his cubs and strangled prey for his lioness. He filled his caves with prey and his dens with torn flesh.
Mm. Yeah, strangling. Lions don't strangle. Alter uses the term.
I'm sure, like in the past, you know, they would be looking at this lion, and of course, it's not strangling. But if you like bite into someone's jugular, it's, I don't know. I guess you could.
Alter uses the term breaking necks, which is also what's used in the Revised English Bible.
So old lions didn't just have people hands? Okay, good.
Yeah, I think breaking necks would make sense there. All right. Let's continue on here.
Behold!
I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts, and I will burn your chariots in smoke, and the sword shall devour your young lions. I will cut off your prey from the earth, and the voice of your messengers shall no longer be heard. That's the end of chapter 2.
Yeah, so these concluding lines obviously pick up the metaphor of the lion. The lion being a standard trope for a warrior exercising martial prowess. An apt understanding of this line is reflected in the battle poems of Shmuel Hanagid, the great medieval Hebrew poet of Granada.
What a great name.
From Granada, too. Okay, well.
Who uses the same word for lions, Kephirim, as an epithet for warriors.
Okay. All right.
Oh, man, Shmuel of Granada is so cool.
So interesting chapters so far, but do you
hear something? I hear something. I'm scared. I'm going to see how long it takes.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Oh my God, Jesus! It's good to see you again. Always very helpful in all of our shilling, I would assume. And once again, you have taken Reuben. Reuben has disappeared.
Wait him.
Hopefully, he comes back, and we learn a little bit more about Nineveh and how it's going to be absolutely destroyed. It's going to get wrecked. So I'm going to talk a little bit about.
Also, we didn't learn anything about Nahum at all. Who's Nahum?
Oh, we don't know.
See, maybe that's why he's not written about him. Like, we don't know anything about him.
Right, but we still have, like, this
the
work.
writing called this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a place name without knowing where the place actually is. We see his obvious hatred for Nineveh and for the Assyrians in general. So we can kind of place it in time.
But you don't know anything about the guy.
Yeah, nothing about him.
How many books are like that where we don't talk about the prophet at all? I mean, if it has the prophet in the title.
There are a couple.
I mean, obviously, the book of the kings of Judah and Israel and like Genesis.
Whole different thing.
Yeah, different. You know, they don't have a prophet per se. They have either many or at least not titled. Yeah. There's no titular character here.
Yeah, it's just it's a very angry human being. Yeah.
Well, I could see this. I could see Nahum, and this is pure conjecture. There's no textual basis, I guess, for it. But I could see Nahum as kind of in the lines of Homer, right? An epic poet who is like providing a poem that describes a decisive battle, right? It wouldn't surprise me if there was one author with like maybe a few emendations made later on. it also wouldn't particularly surprise me if this author was contemporary to this assault.
Yeah.
Which is cool. We have a lot of writings where we're pretty sure the author is much later. So it's good to have somebody in their time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we had the discussions before on whether or not there were, certain writers actually, was our writing from them actually.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a short enough book that I don't think much revision was even done probably to it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes with this chapter. Because remember, I think in the introduction we were talking about how the first two chapters are different.
Okay.
So
now we can see if there was some.
Yeah, let's see how this goes. If the topic changes or what's the
like how it feels, the writing of the tense. Is it first, third, whatever? Does it suddenly shift to I?
Well, yeah.
Well, it almost follows the epic poetry, like what do you want to say? Like the formula of an epic poem. Like there's an invocation of the muse almost, because it starts off in chapter 1 with like this proclamation about the Lord and his power, and it's basically like chapter 1 is like God is so great and powerful, and this is the power of the Lord, etc., etc. And then chapter 2 goes on to describe this battle that occurs where like the shields are bloodied and the spoils are taken, and it's like describing this event that took place as a consequence of what happens in chapter 1, which is the power of the Lord, right? Now, I would imagine that chapter 3 is kind of a resolution to it, right? Where it's either like, look at this example that's happened, this will apply to others who are enemies of Israel, or like, look at how great God's power is. So fortunate are the people of Judah, or whatever, stuff like that, right? So it's formulaic if it works out that way, right? So let me start chapter 3. Woe to the bloody city! It is full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses.
So many corpses. So for these first 3 verses here, so they're very vivid. It's even more vivid in the Hebrew, I guess.
Yeah.
Not quite as vivid as the stuff before, but still, with a succession of 2-word phrases conveying a breathless scene of the noise and confusion of battle. Recent excavations at the Halsey Gate in Nineveh have discovered a number of tangled skeletons on the partly cobbled roadway. Although this does not necessarily mean that the prophet was an eyewitness. Wars, unfortunately, have many common features, including piles of corpses.
Yeah. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, and the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold! Behold!
Behold.
I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock.
Make you vile and make a spectacle of you. So everyone will they're going to laugh at you. You're going to be the star of this circus.
I haven't seen that described as a gazing stock.
Me neither.
Very interesting, King James. Or author of King James section.
Translator of King James.
In this particular part here. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee. and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? Art thou better than populous No, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea?
Okay, so are you better than Ammon, that sits by the Nile, water all around her, that has a sea as a rampart? Water is her wall?
So this was like a coastal city.
Yeah, so I mean it's a major city of northern Egypt. I think it was referenced before here about Noamon. If I can find where was referenced before about an actual identification. I think we had it. I'd have to go back and check.
Okay, we have additional cities here. Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Lubim were thy helpers.
Yeah, Put and the Libyans. Yeah.
So what's Put?
Oh, that was we had that referenced a few times. It was another city.
Yeah, it's long ago.
Yeah.
We
Is it
talked
in
about
Egypt?
No. No, it was mentioned
I'm not sure.
Libya. So I'm going to guess it's near Libya.
Well, Ethiopia and Egypt were mentioned right next to each other.
Are they not?
I mean,
They're not, I don't think they're directly next to each other, but they're very close.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if these are geographically linked. So like just a suggestion.
Probably just denoting an alliance.
yeah,
So
Yeah, oh, politically.
yeah.
Got it.
Yet was she carried away.
that was Thebes.
Thebes.
Yes, sorry. No,
Put is
not
Thebes?
not that one. Noamon was Thebes.
Noamon is Thebes.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains.
Oh no.
Whoops.
We're returning to the theme of dashing children on stones.
Love it.
The word of God, everyone. Thou also shalt be drunken, thou shalt be hid. Thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater.
So, the prophet exhibits a boldness of metaphoric imagination in turning fortresses, solid stone structures, into ripe figs that fall from the branches when they are shaken. So, I guess flimsy.
Put might be ancient Kush. Could be. Draw. That's the next verse. Behold,
Behold.
thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thy enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars.
Is that supposed to be?
Not my bars.
Hold on. Is
My
that,
bars are fire.
you know what? Yes, Ruben. Your bars are hot. I don't know, man. Yeah, when you spit hot fire, means your bars are hot.
Sure.
Is what I've heard on the internet.
Buy my mixtape.
Yeah, so look, your people are women in your midst for your enemies. The gates of your land are wide open. Is that supposed to be a horror joke or something?
Sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Draw thee waters for the siege.
Well, I guess not a joke, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay and tread the mortar. Make strong the brick kiln. There shall the fire devour thee. The sword shall cut thee off. It shall eat thee up like the canker worm. Make thyself many as the canker worm. Make thyself many as the locusts.
Okay, so come into the mud and trample the clay, grasp the brickwood, their fire shall consume you, The sword shall cut you off, shall consume you like locusts. Be as many as locusts, be as many as grasshoppers.
So basically, they're calling them insects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven.
And also locusts consume everything. So.
What?
Yeah.
The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Thy crowned are the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun ariseth, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. There is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually?
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of Nahum. And I think after reading the work, I could see this as one continuous work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't feel
And
that
it's-
different in chapter 3, did it?
No, not really.
It's
I think
very much hate speech, too.
I think one of the things about it is it kind of sounds like a hymnal story, like you're poetically describing all these things that have happened. So I think it was written after the fall entirely of these places.
Yeah, probably.
But it was. I guess this guy was just really happy that these places were destroyed, and then he was like, God was so mad, and then he destroyed all of you. There was blood everywhere, and now you have nothing. You have been absolutely demolished by the Lord.
This guy almost reminds me of somebody who would go and preach in the streets.
Kind of, yeah.
Maybe.
You'd be like, all these people are doomed. See, you're doomed because you're just like them.
Like Brother Jed.
Yeah, it's a brother
Yeah.
Jed.
Though, I still think like it's very much like epic poetry, right?
Yeah,
there's
epic
an
poetry would
invocation
refer
of the muse, right? There's a description of the battle. It starts in media res, right? It doesn't talk about like the build up to a battle. It's just like we're in this battle and then they're fucked, right? So it follows the formula of an epic poem. It's a short epic poem, right?
But I definitely see epic poem there.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
like epic poetry, like Homer did not participate in the Trojan War.
True.
As far as we know, I mean, Homer could also be multiple people.
Yeah.
Also true, yeah.
Yeah. And like, it wouldn't surprise me if this is someone who was contemporary to the battle, like just
Maybe contemporary, but writing afterwards.
yeah,
I think.
definitely writing afterwards. And well, the entire thing is told in like past tense, basically. I mean, it's
Even when it's not, it seems like
it's not strictly in past tense. It's like this happens to you, right? But at the same time, it's very much describing events that clearly have happened in the past, right?
Yeah, and it'll say it talks about future events too, but those future events are fairly immediate, and it really comes off like a just desserts kind of story.
Yeah, I could see this being
Gotta love desserts.
yeah, I could see this being the invention of an epic poet who is maybe performing this poem for soldiers who are coming home from the battle, right? That is a possibility. I could also see this as an epic poet who is performing this poem in preparation for another battle where he's referring to previous poetry and maybe trying to rile up the troops or whatever. Or just being like a fan of military history.
Yeah, or maybe he's just a guy who hated Assyrians.
Yeah. Could just be a guy who hates Assyrians.
yeah.
But definitely hate speech. if you were British and you wrote this, you would go to jail.
Oh.
If you wrote this about some people that were completely destroyed by us, it would be very angry.
Yeah, you don't see
Yeah.
this. You don't see stuff like this written about Native Americans.
No,
very
you
often.
don't. That would be you'd look at something like that and be like, okay, a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine? Like, we devastated you entirely, like some fucking asshole.
Yeah. So is this guy from Israel or Judah? I'd say Judah. There's references to Judah
there is references to Jude.
where
to
there's
Judah, yeah.
no references to Israel.
Well,
or
there's reference
Samaria.
to Jacob, and that would include
Jacob.
them all.
Right, but there are explicit references to Judah, where there are not explicit references to Israel or Samaria.
Yeah. I think this guy would be preaching in Judah.
Mhm.
Maybe this was, after the Assyrians have been destroyed, and this guy was speaking in Judah about maybe the purpose of this was like, you have nothing to worry about, basically, because these guys were destroyed.
Maybe this guy's like a contemporary of Jeremiah, right? Where, Jeremiah is all warning people about how the Babylonians are going to come in. And this guy is like, oh, well, this is how our enemies have been dealt with before. We have nothing to worry about.
Maybe.
So
It would be a really weird message of hope. That's the one thing that would stumble me up on that.
Yeah.
So
It is, but we can compare it to like war propaganda that's happened in recent history, or even like the anti-Russian stuff that's happening today, right? Where there's clear Russophobia, right?
Chinophobia.
Sinophobia.
Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to say it. So
thanks, McCarthy.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's that kind of book. Where would you place it? What's your score for Nahum?
So I mean, it was pretty short, and although it wasn't told in like narrative form or anything, but as a poem, it's pretty violent. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, as far as war scenes go in the Bible, this is one of the better written ones.
I'd definitely say so.
I like that it's contemporary, which is a rarity in the Bible.
It might be contemporary.
It is more contemporary, if not closer to contemporary.
Yeah, maybe the guy was like around when all this stuff happened,
Yes.
but then wrote it, after
or
like,
heard
later.
it. And maybe like
to.
his dad fought in the war. Or
Yeah,
his grandpa.
and his dad was like telling him these old war stories. He's like, "Let me tell you, sonny boy."
Yeah.
By the way, I could envision this happening
Back in my day.
around this guy's lifetime, as opposed to 200 years after, which is what we get a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I don't know.
Not much.
What's your number
praising.
score for it?
Did he praise
I
God
guess I'll-
much?
Yes. The first chapter
Yeah,
was basically
Yeah, the first chapter was more praisey, and then it got less praisey. Sort of at the end, it summarized.
Well,
with
he
praise.
was initially praising like his power.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
then-
that he was saying praise God, all be.
Well, right.
It wasn't the peaceful kind of praise God.
The
It was
the first chapter is like praise God and his power and his ability, right? And then the second and third chapter are like exemplifying that power, right?
Sure.
So I mean, I think as a work itself, I didn't mind it actually.
No,
It
it's
was
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 7.
7 or 8, honestly. Like it's
Considering how
7 and a
bad
half.
the Bible can be, maybe 8.
Like as far it was a surprisingly good poem.
Yeah, and now comparing it just to the other minor prophets, it's
way better.
Way better
Yeah.
than most of them.
Yeah, because man, something about those that's just, even if they have this kind of language and imagery, they're just kind of boring. This one,
Or mopey.
Or middling.
yeah. This one, on the other hand, there's something to it. There's something special about it.
Fair enough.
So, those are final thoughts on Nehemiah. Next,
Nahum.
Yeah, Nahum, not Nehemiah. That
Totally different thing.
totally different. Though also a hateful guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that one was actually more overtly hateful somehow. Because this you might just interpret it as a description of a war.
Yeah.
mhm.
But Nehemiah, along with Ezra, were very like, these people are horrible. They might have helped us, but don't communicate.
Right.
Don't mate with them. That's bad. You're gonna ruin your bloodline.
Though this one has dashing children against the rocks.
That too.
It's more warlike.
The streets,
still.
actually.
War and destruction are the themes that I feel here, and
Absolutely.
they resonate quite well compared
Yeah.
to some of the themes we've experienced with the other short authors.
Yeah. So next week we're gonna be reading Habakkuk.
Yeah, I think in its entirety, right? It's three
Yeah,
chapters.
It's 3 chapters.
Yeah, there it is. Habakkuk. And then we're on Zephaniah, which is also really short.
And Haggai,
And Zechariah is the last.
longish one.
yeah.
It'll take 3 episodes for Zechariah. The rest are single episode
Yep.
reads.
Oof. Getting through this.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So be sure to join us for our covering of Habakkuk. If you enjoyed the stream today, you can check us out on Patreon, where we have tons of rewards that you can get for paying us money.
You could win T-shirts. For example, Chris will do us the great honor of pinning one of the T-shirts that you could win.
And if you don't win a t-shirt, you can just buy it. You could buy this pinned t-shirt that's about to be pinned. This Behold white t-shirt.
Yeah.
You can get it. You can buy. You will be the coolest kid in school if you walk around with a Behold white t-shirt.
Absolutely. It looks great. I
Tell
think.
all of your classmates about Milwaukee Atheists and how totally cool.
How totally
they are.
rad we are.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Yeah. We're totally tubular, right? Now you wait,
That
what
was so
what did the
screechy,
kids
it was great.
What do the kids say now? Is it like
Lit. I don't know.
lit? No,
Nobody
that
knows.
that's a little
None of us are children anymore.
Well, it's like I don't know. We're so Doge. We're totally May.
I don't
right.
know. You're not-
Dank. You will only find the dankest of memes here.
Thanks,
Uh-huh.
old.
How about that? No.
Have you?
Yeah, we're heckin' awesome.
Hella. Awesome.
They don't say that anymore.
They don't say hella.
No. Hella has been replaced with heckin'.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay. You know what? We're just not. We're
Children,
just.
you're not a child.
We don't have our fingers on the pulse anymore.
No, but
Good. Didn't
but-
like having it there.
you can also buy us books on our Amazon wish list.
Yeah,
that too.
absolutely. Link is in the description for everything that we're showing right now. We got a lot of books on there, so we
Yeah.
could read them on the show. We could use them as sources in long form videos. A lot of good stuff. Let's see what else we got.
Facebook and Twitter.
Facebook and Twitter, that's free.
Free to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Lawrence diss track.
Our Amazon wish list.
Lawrence diss track. Send your Lawrence diss tracks into MilwaukeeAtheists@gmail.com.
Absolutely. The Amazon wish list is the last thing.
If you make a diss track, we will do a reaction video.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
All right.
And an unboxing.
So you want like a physical?
No,
Like-
the equivalent of an unboxing video is just clicking to open the file.
Unzipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, unzip. That's good. So make sure it's compressed, I guess.
Yeah.
No, we'll compress it for you because it has to be an unzipping. You know.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Either way, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will
See you on Friday for the
more
conclusion of
demons.
Testament of Solomon, and then Sunday, and
The
then
demons
Friday, and then
and
Sunday, and
Habakkuk,
then Friday, and then
and
Sunday,
a whole
and
week
then
of